It's only normal for families to expect nursing homes to take care of their loved ones. But for some at Van Duyn Center for Rehabilitation and Nursing, it's not the case. Far from it. News Channel 9's Madison Moore investigates some deeply disturbing claims of neglect inside Van Duyn.
This is hell. This is hell.
This is the feeling one resident at Van Duyn Center for Rehabilitation and Nursing says she wakes up with every day. The 61-year-old, who wishes to remain anonymous, found herself at Van Duyn after she was dropped from her home health care company due to staffing shortages. She thought her stay would be brief, but 4 months later, she's still there and feeling hopeless.
There's never enough aides here. They don't help. You're always calling your call button, and they're turning it off at the front desk. A call button means you need help, not to go and turn it off. You spend 45 minutes waiting for an aide to come.
And that's not all. She claims she's only been given one shower since arriving on July 6th and is almost never taken out of bed, something she can't do on her own.
Let the aides do whatever they want. The aides are on their phone, and especially like the nurses. They're dispensing medicine to patients, but they're on their personal call. How can you concentrate on what medicine you're putting in if you're on the phone?
And the resident says she's had to find a new home care agency on her own, a task the social workers were supposed to help with. And this isn't the first time she's speaking out. She reached out to the State Department of Health to file a formal complaint. When we reached out to the DOH, they wouldn't talk about the way Van Duyn treated this woman, but sent a statement saying they regularly conduct unannounced surveys at every nursing home in the state, adding in part, quote, "The department will continue to hold Van Duyn and all other nursing home operators accountable for their actions." But the resident is sending this message to other families. A stark warning from the inside.
Don't put your loved ones here. If you hate somebody, put them here. But if you love somebody, you don't put them here.
The Van Duyn resident says she expects to be able to go home soon and is counting down the days until she's released. And be sure to tune in to News Channel 9 tomorrow at 5 to hear how an entire family is dealing with similar mistreatment. Madison Moore, News Channel 9.
Madison, thank you. The Van Duyn administration declined to do an interview with us, but did send a statement. It reads in part, Van Duyn's administrators want to assure you there is nothing more important to us than the care and well-being of our residents, and they are receiving the care and respect they deserve in our facility. The statement adds the facility has stopped new admissions to focus on providing care to the current residents. We have the full statement for you if you want to read it. It is at localsyr.com. We are putting the spotlight on a local nursing home this week, and what that light reveals is disturbing. Last night here on News Channel 9, we heard from one resident at Van Duyn Center for Rehabilitation and Nursing who says she's been offered just one shower in 4 months and is almost never given assistance to get out of bed. Tonight, News Channel 9's Madison Moore brings you the story of an entire family who says the neglect goes beyond the walls of Van Duyn.
A living nightmare. That's how Sherry describes the past 5.5 years at Van Duyn.
It's like a prison, but you ain't do the crime, but you got to do all this time.
Sherry was placed in Van Duyn for short-term rehab in 2016. But her sister says things took a turn for the worse after she was moved to long-term nursing.
She's supposed to be up very early before 8 a.m. And with that comes to getting her cleaned up from the night before and changed and into clean clothes. So that piece happens quite often where it doesn't happen.
And my shower day is a Tuesday. And that hasn't happened for me for a couple of weeks now.
Sherry and Debbie say the neglect has always been an issue, but the pandemic has only made it worse. Since visits were limited, Sherry's family feared she was being poorly treated, and those fears came true.
Sometimes I'll get a call at 2 in the morning, and she'll say, I haven't been changed since 9 o'clock this morning.
That day, Sherry had been left sitting in her own human waste for 31 hours. And Brianna says this has happened multiple times. And when the family calls Van Duyn to get someone to help, it goes straight to voicemail and no one calls them back.
The administration itself is very difficult to speak to. I personally contacted the administrator a couple months ago, and I called him every week for that entire month, and I never received a return phone call.
So instead, Debbie called the State Department of Health, filing at least 4 complaints, and she's not the only one. According to DOH records, Van Duyn has received 374 complaints from August 2017 through July 2021, leading to 89 citations, 66 more than the state average. And in June alone this year, the state investigated 25 different types of complaints, all of which the state has listed as corrected. As Sherry's family waits for the investigations into her care to be complete, her loved ones are working to get her moved to a different facility.
We just put in request with the social worker last week. So he said things are starting to open up, so maybe they'll review them now.
And Sherry says she wants to get out.
Not now, but like right now.
Hoping someone answers her plea for help. In Syracuse, Madison Moore, News Channel 9.
Tonight, we're finding out what elected leaders are doing to improve conditions at the Van Duyn Center for Rehabilitation and Nursing. The past 2 nights, we've shared the frightening, revealing claims from some about life inside the facility. Now, News Channel 9's Madison Moore asks how the facility's administration will be held accountable.
Feeling trapped, like you can't escape, is how Colleen describes the past 8 years at Van Duyn Center for Rehabilitation and Nursing.
And I just feel like, it's being in here, it's like a prison.
A comparison every resident we've spoken to has made. And it's stories like this that led local elected leaders to pay a recent visit to the facility to find out what's really going on behind closed doors.
There are still a lot of unanswered questions.
State Senator Rachel May toured Van Duyn alongside Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh and State Senator John Mannion.
But I was also kind of concerned that they rolled out the red carpet for us and made it, showed us these beautiful parts of the facility, but we didn't really hear details about what they're doing to address some of the complaints that we've heard.
May says administrators of the for-profit company brought the elected leaders to the top floor of the facility, where no one lives, and says the answers they did receive sounded more like excuses.
I can't say that we learned a whole lot from it.
But she's hoping a soon-to-be-released Department of Health report will provide some real answers.
And they went in a few days before we were there and have not issued their report about that visit yet, but I think we're all waiting to hear what they have to say.
And while the elected officials are hoping to find solutions to these problems, many residents think it's too far gone.
I really think it needs to be shut down because it's not good working.
The Department of Health investigation is expected to be released later this month. As soon as it's available, you'll hear about it right here on News Channel 9. The DOH added that nursing homes are required to submit a written plan of correction when deficiencies are cited. And if you or a loved one has experienced neglect or mistreatment at Van Duyn, you can file a complaint with the State Health Department by calling 888-201-4563. You can also contact us here at the Your Stories line by sending us an email to yourstories@localsyr.com. Madison Moore, News Channel 9.
Madison, thanks very much. Great work this week on this story. We offered Van Duyn administrators a chance for an interview to go on camera with us, but they said no. They did offer us a statement. They say new admissions are stopped, more staff's being recruited. You can read their full statement provided to us at localsyr.com.